Britain was once the workshop of the world. But since the closing of the mines, manufacturing has gone into serious decline. In the early 2000s, companies sent their work to countries that offered cheaper labour. This was known as offshoring. Len was fired from Philips Electronics Company in Cambridge when they decided to send their work to Mexico.
I should think there was probably about 150 people made redundant just from our work area in the radio paging department, but eventually they shut the whole building and there was a lot more people laid off because the main workshop that I used to work in held 400 people.
Len helped build a production line for 5 million radio pages in only 10 months. Despite the fact his team exceeded the company's annual targets, one of the production lines was broken down and sent to Guadalajara in Mexico.
Apparently it doesn't matter where you make stuff in the world, the cost of the raw materials is about the same. It's the labour that bites, you see, and they reckon that because the Mexicans didn't need to be paid as much as us, they could make them instead of us, which was a bit sad. So we ended up breaking the whole line to pieces and they made us all redundant and they sent us away.
Now some companies are coming back to the UK. This is called reshoring.
The common mistake is people just look at the piece part cost and the labour cost, which if you compare it to the UK, of course it's cheap. But then you add the additional transport, the additional inventory, the problems you get if you've got a quality defect with responses and the amount of product that could be defects. Once you start adding those costs in and understanding them, it's actually not that much cheaper.
Cambridge Precision is one such example. This engineering company specialises in small batches of high-tech engineering parts for planes, defence and even medical robotics.
Some of the parts that we do here for the aerospace sector, they're sort of criticality 1 parts, that's components that cannot actually fail. And I think one of the things with the niche sector we work in is that we have full accountability and full traceability, so the quality is second to none. I think that's one of the driving factors for a lot of reshoring, is that there is a whole level of transparency which is different here in the UK to other sectors where parts have traditionally been offshored.
By being at the top of a very niche market, Cambridge Precision is more resilient to external shocks, like Britain's exit from the EU. Companies like Cambridge Precision must remain at the forefront of digital technology to succeed in the highly competitive global market.
I think from the myth that, of the sort of days of the dark satanic mills, we've moved away from that, and now manufacturing in the UK is very, very high tech. I think what's quite interesting to note as well is the change, the transition of skills. So what was once perhaps more traditional craft skills, those skills have now changed. It's now more computer-based, more science-based. So I think, quite an evolutionary step.
This evolution towards automisation, or computerised controlled work, means that jobs for middle-skilled workers have basically disappeared.
I think they've let too much of the skills and the industry go, relying just on becoming, a computer-driven research and development country, or just a financial hub of the world, as they say. Because there's a lot of people that need to get involved in industry which would give them a job.
Manufacturing lobby group EEF found a rise in the demand for high-quality, customised goods.
We're seeing far more customers now wanting bespoke product rather than mass-produced volume. Customers are saying, yes, we want that, but we want it like this. And that becomes far easier with a local supply chain.
Brompton Bicycles makes customised fold-up bikes. For many, it's the Made in Britain trademark that makes them so desirable. And so the company never saw the need to leave the UK. Brompton is based in West London, and with 80% of sales being exported, the company is thriving both here and internationally.
I think Made in London kind of message and the fact it is built here obviously resonates a lot in the UK. People like British-made products and the rest of the world. You know they're going to be made well if they're made in the UK or in London. In Asia it's a particularly strong thing because they love British products. They're quite fashionable at the moment, and again, you know they're going to be built well. The reason our bike is built to such a high standard is because it's built in London. It always has been built in London, and all our staff have been trained over 10, 20, 30 years to build this bike. If we moved away from London, even if it was within the UK, we would lose that skill. They likely wouldn't come with us because they all live locally, and we would have to almost start again. So it would be detrimental to the business if we moved away from London.
EEF said that confidence in the manufacturing sector dropped by 10% across the UK after the June referendum.
London, England, the rest of the UK still has a lot of benefits to offer to companies, but these tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers that are going to come into place to trade with the European Union is going to make it a much less attractive place to do business from. So which is why I think Brexit is not going to be the push to attract manufacturing activity back. Potentially what could be a push would be if there was some really sort of big industrial policy that comes in play.
What we need is a manufacturing and industrial strategy, and we need the government to be able to say it's got a manufacturing and industrial strategy, not one that's written on the back of an envelope and announced at a particular conference so it looks good. And instead of slogans, we've got to invest in manufacturing. We've got to invest in the supply chain.
Reshored companies with niche markets appear to be less affected by Britain's exit, and in many cases are even experiencing short-term increases in exports with the fluctuation of the pound. However, for the time being at least, the longer-term impacts on British manufacturing don't look overly optimistic.
I finished on the Saturday morning when the shift ended, because we used to work round the clock on these different shifts. And I finished on the Saturday morning, and I started at Cambridge University on the following Monday. So, given a glowing reference from Phillips, and said cheerio, and that's it.
This is Anna Fleck, reporting for City News.